Hey everybody. So we're looking at the 2.2 worksheet today. Just going over a bit more on reflections. I'm just going to do a couple of these with you. So just stick with me and then I'm sure you'll be fine on this. Okay, if you guys remember when we go to do our reflections, the first thing we normally want to find is, where is that reflection line and then highlight it. Okay, on numbers 1 and 2, it's telling us, to reflect over the x-axis. Okay, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with it, but it's still a great idea to highlight that reflection line. Okay, and if you want to go ahead and do it on number 2 as well. Okay, I'm not going to go over these two problems completely, but from here, it's just a matter of reflecting points over the line. For example, if F is 2 units below the reflection line, it's going to reflect 2 units above the reflection line, and there it is. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and just pause the video and maybe try these two out, feel free, and then we can try out one on the backside. Okay, so from here, I want to just go ahead and move to the backside. Okay, these problems are asking us to reflect over a particular line that's not as obvious. Okay, on number 7, it's asking us to reflect across the line of x equals -3. Okay, remember, this is a line that goes through the x-axis at -3. Okay, and you might not need to do this in your worksheet, but if you guys remember, this is how I taught it. Through the x-axis at -3. Okay, so let's figure out where that's at first. Okay, well, here's the x-axis, right? Here is 0 on the x-axis, -1, -2, -3. So this is the line of x equals -3. Okay, just I want to point out, notice how the x-axis is horizontal, but the line of x equals a number is vertical. Try not to think it's also going to be a horizontal line. Okay, but from here, reflecting the points is pretty straightforward. X is 1 to the right, so it's going to reflect 1 to the left. Okay, make sure you're naming these points. Don't get lazy on that. W is 2 to the left, reflect 2 to the right. And Y is 1 to the right, reflect 1 to the left. Okay, so I went through that kind of quick, but feel free to pause the video. Okay, but when you connect your dots, you should see something that looks nice and symmetrical. Okay, so if you want to try out maybe 5 and 6, 7 and 8, feel free if you want to pause the video for now. I got one more I want to do. Okay, so the last two sections, numbers 9 and 10, this is getting into a line of y equals x. Okay, just first a little reminder is these require a rule. Okay, and I recommend copying this rule next to numbers 9 and 10. Here's the rule for the line of reflecting over the line of y equals x. Okay, so go ahead and copy that next to numbers 9 and 10. Okay, and if you guys remember what this line looks like is it goes from the bottom left to the top right of your graph. Okay, so that's what you'll see on both of these. Okay, but really it's applying the rule. I'm not going to do either one of these, but xy on this just turns into yx. You get the original coordinates, you swap the numbers, and you get the reflection. Okay, what I do want to go over with you guys is number 11. Okay, 11 and 12 get into reflecting over the line of y equals -x. Okay, so first things first, go ahead and get that rule for numbers 11 and 12. Okay, and we'll get back to this rule in just a minute. Okay, but if you guys remember, the line of y equals -x is this line that goes down from left to right. Okay, but the big thing is applying the rule. Okay, so on these problems, the first thing we need to do is get those original coordinates. All right, so it doesn't matter what you start with. Let's just start with V. Okay, remember when you find coordinates, start in the center, move on your x-axis first, and then on your y-axis. Okay, so V is at -4 on the x, but we don't need to go up or down, so 0 on the y. Okay, so off to the right, go ahead and show yourself. V is at -4, 0. Okay, let's do W next. That's at -3, -5. And then U is at -1, -4. Okay, take your time on finding these original coordinates. Just make sure they're correct so you don't accidentally use the wrong points. Okay, but now let's apply the rule. What's happening? XY is turning into negative Y, negative X. Two things. We are swapping the two numbers, and then we're also changing their signs. Okay, remember, that's what that negative means. If the number is positive, it turns negative, but if it's negative, it turns positive. It changes its sign. Okay, when you guys go to do this, I recommend doing those two things one at a time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to swap my two numbers. Negative 4 is 0 becomes 0, negative 4. Okay, and then now I'm going to change their signs. 0, there's no negative 0, so it stays that, but negative 4 becomes positive 4. Okay, let's try it with W. Okay, so first thing, swapping my two numbers, negative 3, negative 5 becomes negative 5, negative 3. Okay, and now let's change their signs. Negative 5 is a positive 5, negative 3 is a positive 3. Okay, and then the last one, U, swapping negative 1, negative 4 to negative 4, negative 1. Okay, negative 4 becomes positive 4, negative 1 becomes positive 1. Okay, so that's the idea. So now let's plot these points. Okay, this new V is at 0 on the X, 4 on the Y. So we're not going left or right, but going up to positive 4. Okay, there's the new V. Okay, new W is at 5, comma 3. So to positive 5 on the X, up to positive 3 on the Y, right there. Okay, and then the new U is at 4, comma 1 to 4 on the X, 1 on the Y. Okay, and this is why on these problems, and really all problems, it's good to have the reflection line. Okay, even though I would say on these last four, it's not necessary to have this drawn, it is good to see it because now I can see, oh yeah, that is a nice reflection over that line. Okay, so there's a little review on that. Go ahead and try out the rest of these. Remember, your notes are a good thing to maybe have out next to you, or even that note video if you need to see more examples, feel free to check it out. All right, thanks guys.